Hello, everybody. This is Chuck Terry again with Crescent and Valiani. Today we're going to discuss the shaping tools that Valiani has built into their program. And with the shaping tools, this again, in combination with the contour tool, my opinion is that those are the two most powerful aspects of the program. Shaping tool allows you to merge objects together, eliminate intersections, and also allows you to trim an object into another object. So you have a target object, and then you have your source object, and you're able to trim those objects into each other to create some unique shapes. So to get started, I want to start off with some real basic, simple fundamentals of the shaping tool. So I'm going to add in a basic rectangle, and I'm going to have another rectangle added in, and I'm just going to size that rectangle down to 3 by 5. Okay. Now I'm going to take this opening here, and I'm going to overlap it somewhere on the larger rectangle. Okay, you do have to have some type of intersection for it to merge properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this object here in this lower corner here. Now I've only got one object selected, so as you can see over here, that object's 3 inches by 5 inches. It's on layer 1, normal cut, 40-degree head, and if I click on my larger rectangle, that one's 12 by 16, layer 1, normal cut, 40-degree head, or 40-degree head. One of the key aspects, or one of the rules when you're trying to merge an object with another object, is they both have to be on the same layer. So again, I've got this object on layer 1. I've got the smaller object also on layer 1. Okay. Now, if I come over here to the Advanced tab, so normally you start off under Arrangement, but I'm going to come over here to the Advanced tab, and under the Advanced tab is where you're going to see the shaping tools. Now, if I hover my mouse over the top of it, it's going to show me what that button does, but as it is right now, they're inactive. And the reason why they're inactive is because this particular section of the program, the shaping tools, require more than one object to be selected. Some cases you can have multiple objects selected, and in some cases you can only have 2 objects selected. So it depends on which tool you're working with, but for right now we're just going to kind of keep it basic and simple. So I've got my small rectangle selected. I'm going to hold the control key down, and I'm going to select the large rectangle. Now, as you visually look at this object, or these objects that are on the design here, you can see the entire perimeter of the 3 by 5, but you can't see the larger perimeter of the 12 by 16. And so even though they're both on the same layer, graphically speaking, you can only display an object that's in the forefront, not in the background. So my large rectangle is in essence in the background, and my small rectangle is in the front. Okay, so when I am working with these shaping tools, that does kind of come into play in occasion. So just keep that in mind. if you see the smaller object in the front and you can see everything, then that object's going to be in the foreground, and then anything behind it that you can't see everything will be in the background. For the merge tool, that's not going to really matter at this point, because what we're going to end up with is an outline of these two objects, and it's going to eliminate all the interior aspects of the shape here. So all you have to do is have both objects selected, and then I come over here and I can click the merge button. So you see now that I've got the two openings selected, I have little flags that pop up that tell me what each button represents and what it does. Okay, so I'm going to click merge. Very simple, very basic, straightforward, nothing to it. Okay, usually what I do after I've merged an object is I deselect by clicking somewhere out in the blue. Then I come back and click on that same object again, and you'll be able to see that it's now a different size. It's on layer 1 still, and normal cut 40-degree head. Okay, so that's pretty basic. Well, you can continue to merge objects all day long. If I wanted to go ahead and add in a circle here, let's go 2 by 2, drag it down here to the bottom, and I hold the control key down. So right now I don't have any flags showing, so I know that I don't have all the objects selected that I need, so I need to have at least 2 objects selected. So I select those 2 objects, and when you have more than one object selected, the display over on the right hand side of the screen, it can't tell you the information that you would normally see when you just have one object selected. When you have one object selected, it tells you what your template is, tells you what your width, your height, layer, tool type, cut type, so on and so forth. But when you have 2 objects selected, it can't display the information for both objects. So it kind of looks at it as though it's a group. That's just a side note, but now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to hit the merge button again. Okay, so now I've just merged that object into the shape here that we've got, the object that we've got in there. Okay, again, I'm going to deselect out here in the blue, come back onto by clicking into the opening, and you can see what the outcome is like. This is really handy, especially when you're working with, say, newspaper articles or things like that, where you need to kind of fit the article a little bit, and you want to frame just around that particular article. It's really handy when you're working with something like that to be able to have that flexibility and things like that. So that's the merge tool. Okay. Now, one other thing that I want to point out is all of the objects that I brought in, the 2 rectangles and the circle, they all came from my templates. Now, if you've worked with the templates in the past, you know that you can add layers to the template. Well, the moment that you merge or shape the object into something different, the program automatically takes a look at the template and says you no longer fit within the rules or guidelines to be considered a template. You're your own unique object now. So if I wanted to make this a double mat, what I would do is I would use my contour. And if you watch the video about contour, you'll see what this tool does. Okay, so now I've got a double mat. Pretty simple, pretty basic, and I could now send this file over to the cut program and cut it if I so desire. Okay, so let's step back for a moment here. Let's go File, New. I'm going to add another opening in, and I'm going to go ahead and add in, let's go ahead and add in an oval here. I'm going to overlap this, and again I can see that I've got the information 7 inches by 10 inches here. Layer 1, normal cut, 40-degree head. And then if I click on the large rectangle, 12 by 16, layer 1, normal cut, 40-degree. Now let me make a change here to something. I'm going to go ahead and take this oval and I'm going to move it to layer 2. Okay. Now that I've got the oval on layer 2 and the rectangle on layer 1, if I select those two objects, you'll notice that my shaping tools are no longer active. You cannot shape an object or objects if they are on different layers. Everything has to remain on the same layer. So I'm going to move this back to layer 1, hold the control key down, and then voila, I've got my merge tool option if I wanted to merge it. I've got my intersection, trim bottom, trim top. Okay, this time we're going to trim the intersection. We're going to intersect the design. We're going to click on that, and now I end up with a unique shape again. Okay, so that's what the intersection does, is it takes the interior of the object and then eliminates all the exterior. Okay, so again, hold the control key down, click to select. Let's move this over to a different point here. Let's just go over here, select, and then I'm going to intersect here. Okay, so now it took off that section of the oval. Okay, so again, I've got another unique object. Again, if it's shaped and trimmed or something has changed and is no longer referred to as a template, to add a layer, you basically have to use the contour tool. Okay, and then we can go ahead and send that file to the cut program as well. Okay, so let's start another one. Let's go File, New. And I'm going to add an opening. And then let's go ahead and add in another opening. I'm going to make that 5 by 3. And I'm going to drag that guy down here to the bottom. I'm going to turn my snap tool on to help me with alignment. Okay, so I can bring that down there, bring it over to here. And what the next tool that we're going to use under the shaping is called Trim Bottom. Now, trim bottom and trim top, they're a little bit difficult to understand what that means. But again, if we look at the design that we've got here, I've got my 3 by 5 rectangle selected. I can see all of the object. I can see the entire thing, the entire perimeter of the 3 by 5. But I cannot see the entire perimeter of my 12 by 16. So what that means again is the larger rectangle is in the background, the smaller rectangle is in the front. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the control key down. I'm going to select my large rectangle, and then I'm going to come over here to trim bottom. Now I'll go ahead and trim bottom like it is right now. But basically what's going to happen is it's going to come down here, it's going to run into this intersection point right here, and it's going to say I need to eliminate that on the bottom layer and run up this leg, across the top, down this leg, and then come back out. Okay, so let me do that real quick. Trim bottom. Okay, now you'll notice there's kind of a wider white line following that top perimeter of the 3 by 5. Okay, so if I click on this rectangle, it's still intact. The whole thing is still there, but maybe I don't need it, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Okay, so now I just took that portion of the 3 by 5 rectangle and I trimmed it into the bottom rectangle, and then I removed the 3 by 5. I was basically using the 3 by 5 or the 5x3 as a construction point. So I could then get this type of shape that I'm looking for. Okay, and then I could discard that construction point and no longer need it. Now, if I want to make this a double matte, again, I can't go to my layers, but I can go into contour. And I click OK, and now it's set up and ready to cut. Okay, so now let's go back over to File, New, click No, and then I'm going to add an opening. I'm going to insert another opening. Let's go 5x3 again. Okay, and I'm going to place that object right there. Again, this one's in the front and the larger one is in the back. So I'm going to select the small one and the large one. And this time I'm going to go to Trim Top. So what does that mean? Again, it can be confusing, but basically it's going to take the object that's in the back and it's going to trim it into the object that's in the front. Okay, so I'm going to click on Trim Top. You can see that it kind of looks like a little L shape here. If I move this object away, then I'm left with that little L shape. Okay, so that's what Trim Bottom, Trim Top do for us. Now, it can get real complex at times when you're starting to look at this, and got to be honest, not always does the program cooperate the way you would expect it to. But let me just kind of throw something out here for you real quick. I'm going to go into my templates again here, and I'm going to add in a rectangle. I'm going to make it 3x5. Now, I want to make 4 of these. Well, I can copy and paste if I wanted to, and then I could position them if I wanted to. But I'm going to go into the Openings tab here, and I'm going to go Manage Array. Okay. Now it's asking what number of shapes do you want? So let's say I want 4 shapes, and then when I hit the Tab key, it's going to automatically insert my rows and my columns. And then it's also going to default to a spacing of 1 inch vertically and 1 inch horizontally between the objects. So that's laid out nicely. It also auto-sized my frame size for me based off of my 2-inch border. But I'm gonna change this up a little bit. I'm gonna make this 2 inches here, and I'm gonna make it 2 inches here. Okay. Now, if I'm satisfied with that layout and that design, I'm going to go ahead and click the Done button. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to insert a circle or an oval, and let's make that 3x5. Okay. Now this is where the program can get a little goofy, and sometimes you have to just do a little bit of trial and error. But in essence, what I want to do is I want to cut around into my rectangles here. So I want to keep the oval, but I'm going to create another construction point here, and excuse me, and I'm going to do that by inserting a contour. So let's go 1/4 inch global full, but I need to put it on layer 1. Can't put it on layer 2, or else I won't be able to trim my objects. Okay. So now I've got this oval in the background and my rectangles are in the foreground or in the front. Okay, so I'm going to click on one rectangle. I'm going to hold the Control key down, and I'm going to select on my outer construction point, my outer contoured oval, and I'm going to go into my Advanced Tools or Advanced tab, go to my Shaping Tools. And if I'm reading this right and I'm looking at the screen correctly, I need to trim top. So I want to take that oval and trim it into the top of that rectangle. So let's do trim top. Okay, that looks like it possibly worked. Let's just keep going through this. Select the oval, deselect that, click on the next oval or the next rectangle, trim top. Now, it would be nice if we could do this with more than one object or more than two objects, but we can only do it with two objects. Merging, that's a different story. I can merge as many objects as I want at one click, but with the trim bottom and trim top, I can only do that with two objects at a time. So let's go ahead and trim top on that one. Select the oval again, select the rectangle, and then trim top. And now I should have the results that I'm looking for. So I'm going to get rid of my construction point now and delete it out. Okay. So now you've got this really nice, even looking design with the corners that match to the oval. Okay. So it's again, it's a pretty powerful function that they built into the software, and it really gives you a lot of flexibility with your designs. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple more examples here, and then we'll try to get a little bit more complex, and hopefully you can follow along and certainly watch this video over and over again if need be. Okay, so I'm going to go File, New. No, I'm going to just use my 16 by 20 default. I'm going to insert an opening. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to go 32 by 40. Okay, and I want, let's go 3-inch borders. Let's go with a 4 on the bottom. So I got a 4-inch border. So now this bottom dashed line is 4 inches away, and the other 3 dashed lines are 3 inches away. When I add my rectangle, it's going to populate to that size or to the borders. Okay, so now I end up with a 26 by 33 opening. All right, so we're back here again with the sizing of the opening here. I'm going to change the opening dimension from 7 to 7.75 by 9.75. And then I'm going to drag this opening down to the bottom here. I'm going to turn my snap tool back on. I'm going to drag it to the bottom, get it centered. Okay. Now this is kind of a popular way some sports memorabilia people will use the software for, and again, you know, it's going to allow me to shape an object into another object. So what I want to do is, if this is my jersey outline or my jersey shape here for my jersey, and I want to put a picture down at the bottom, I want to have the opening dimension put in at the size that I'm going to have the picture or photograph in. Okay, now I'm going to use my contour tool, and I'm going to change the reveal to 1.5. Okay, for now this is just one single object, so global is fine, full is fine. I don't want to change my corners or anything, and I need to put it on layer 1 because I cannot shape an object that's on a different layer. I have to have everything on the same layer. Okay, so I'm using this contoured rectangle as a construction point. This is going to be kind of my ribbon that goes up and around inside of the larger opening. So I'm going to hold the control key down. I'm going to click on the large rectangle. Again, you want to look at this and go, okay, which one is on top and which one is on the bottom? And so it looks like this smaller contoured rectangle is, I can see everything on it, so we know that's in the forefront. and the larger rectangle's in the background. So I'm going to choose my trim bottom. Okay. Now let's go into wireframe mode here so you can see this a little bit different. So as you can see, as I'm looking at my large rectangle here, it's coming through, and I want to eliminate that intersection. I want it to stop here and turn and go up, over, down, and eliminate that section that's going through that smaller rectangle. So I'm going to hold the control key down, and I've got both the objects selected. I'm going to choose trim bottom. Okay, so now you can see that the yellow path has been diverted and is now following up and around where I wanted to have my ribbon or my mat board for my picture. Okay, now the large rectangle, or the contoured rectangle, it's still intact, it's still there, but I'm just going to simply delete it and get rid of it. Okay, now I've got this nice ribbon going up and around. Let's go back into solid mode here. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and make this a double mat. Now the reason why I went 1.5 inches is because I knew that I was going to make this a double mat. If you're going to make it a triple mat, you got to account for that reveal as well. So I'm going to do Control A this time to select everything, and then I'm going to go into my contour, and I want a 1/4 inch reveal. Global's fine, full's good. This time, yeah, I do want it to go onto layer 2. So now I click OK, and now I've got a double mat. Okay. Now if I want to finish this off and put a little plaque opening down here at the bottom, all I have to do is add an opening. It's automatically going to assign that opening to the highest level of, or highest layer of openings, and we just so happen to have 2 layers, so it automatically assumed that it put it onto layer 2. If I want to change it, put it onto layer 1, I can do that, but in all reality I need it to be on layer 2. So let's go 4 inches wide, let's go 1.5 inches high, and then I'm going to drag that down here to the bottom, snap it into place. Now that little plaque opening right there is going to be set for layer 2, and it's only going to cut on the topmost mat. Now again, this is a little sidetrack here, but I wanted to show you this anyway. If I go down to the very last tab, I have a transparency option. So you can kind of look and see what layers each object are on. So right now I've got both layer 1 and layer 2 turned on. Let's go ahead and turn off layer 2. Okay, so now we look and see it on here. Okay, so this looks like it's going to work. This is what I want to see on my layer 1 mat. Now let's turn off layer 1 and turn layer 2 back on. Okay, and that's exactly what I want to see as well. I want to see that this object is in the right position, and it's not going to get buried by the top mat, but it's going to cut through, and you're going to be able to see the back mat there. Okay, so we'll turn both layers back on. We'll go back over here to arrangement, and now if you're satisfied with the design, you can go ahead and do File, Save As, give it a name, save the file. You can add in as much as you want. If I wanted to say, okay, now I actually need to add in, I don't know, maybe a hockey puck. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to insert a rectangle. I'm going to move it to layer 1. I'm going to get rid of that contour for a moment, and let's call that 4 by 4. Okay, I'm going to drag that up to the top, and it's wanting to center there, so I'm just going to center horizontally. That looks good. I'm going to use my contour tool. Let's go 1.5 inches again, 1.5. Put it on layer 1, click OK, and then it's already selected, so I'm going to hold the control key down, select the 2 objects. I know that I can see all my large or my small square, So go back into advanced and do trim bottom, and then just get rid of that construction point, and now you're ready to go. So now let's do Control A to select all. I'm going to deselect the small rectangle there, and I'm going to go to contour, 1/4 inch, layer 2, good. Now it's all set. So again, you got a lot of freedom with the program, with the designs. The shaping tools are phenomenal tools. I really love working with them. They really give you a lot of advantages. I can shape an object that's a clip art. I can shape an object that's a font. I can shape text or templates, different templates together if I so desire. So again, it's a very powerful program. Got a lot of features built into it. Hopefully this video gives you a little bit more information about how to work with the Valiani software.